My fiancée left me bleeding in my wedding tuxedo to save her lover. 3 days later, she walked into my hospital room. My doctor looked her dead in the eyes and said, "He needed a eulogy, not a future bride." The first thing I remember clearly is the sound, not the impact. The impact belonged to some earlier place my brain refused to file. What stayed was the sound after it. Metal groaning into a shape it was never built to hold. Glass raining softly into leather seats. Someone praying in the back of the limo, and Marcus saying my name like a command. "Daniel, look at me." Not down. At me. I looked down. My white shirt had gone red under the jacket of my wedding tuxedo. My left leg was trapped where the front divider had folded inward, pinned at an angle that made no sense. The limousine had hit the Route 18 construction barrier at 9:31 in the morning, on the day I was supposed to marry Lauren Hayes, and the whole car had buckled like a crushed beer can. Marcus tore off his groomsman tie with his teeth and wrapped it above the wound. He was an ER nurse. That mattered. His hands knew what panic was for and refused to participate. "Stay with me," he said. "Ambulance is coming." I tried. I kept my eyes on his face, on the sweat at his temple, on the blood already turning his cuffs dark. I remember thinking stupidly that his suit was ruined. $1,200 in charcoal wool, ruined before the ceremony. Then Lauren's door opened. I turned my head slowly. My neck lit up white. Lauren was out on the road in her wedding dress, one hand braced against the limo, staring past me at the black SUV behind us. Trevor's SUV. It had not folded. The bumper was bent. The passenger window had a spiderweb crack. Trevor Fallon was standing beside it, holding one arm against his chest, crying hard enough for everyone to hear. "Lauren," Marcus shouted. "Daniel's pinned. He's bleeding out." She looked back at me through the broken window. 2 seconds. That is how long it took to learn the truth of a 4-year relationship. "Paramedics are almost here," she said. "Trevor has a heart condition." "Are you seriously leaving me?" I heard myself ask. My voice sounded small. That bothered me more than the pain. Her face tightened, not with fear, but annoyance. Like I had picked the worst possible moment to be difficult. "Don't make this a macho thing, Daniel," she said. "Be a man." Then she turned around, ran to Trevor, and climbed into the first ambulance with him. The doors closed. The siren started. For a second, the road went strangely quiet. I could hear my own breathing, thin and wet, and the distant clicking of a turn signal from a car that had forgotten it was still alive. Marcus pressed harder on my leg and swore under his breath for the first time since 7th grade. "Look at me," he said again, softer now. "She left. I didn't." I stared at his face while the cold moved up my body. 7 stitches. Spinal bruising. A grade 2 concussion. Lauren did not come to the hospital for 3 full days. Not once. Let me tell you who I was before Route 18, because it matters. My name is Daniel Hartman. I'm 33. I had been a project manager at a commercial construction firm in New Jersey for 7 years, which means my job was basically the documented anticipation of disaster. Schedules, budgets, risk logs, contingency plans. I did not know it then, but I had been building the file on my own life. I met Lauren Hayes at a subcontractor open house in the spring of 2021. She was 32, an interior designer with a warm laugh and the kind of attention that made you feel selected rather than noticed. When she looked at me, the room narrowed in a way I mistook for intimacy. She also had Trevor. Trevor Fallon was her childhood friend. That phrase appeared so often, in exactly that order, that by the second year it sounded less like history and more like branding. They had grown up 2 streets apart in Edison. He was fragile, according to Lauren. Heart condition, anxiety, bad episodes, complicated family. She said responsibility like it had been handed to her by God. At first, I tried to be decent about it. A man does not want to be the jealous fiancé. You tell yourself trust means making room for old loyalties. You ignore the way her voice softened when his name lit up her phone. I was not blind. I was cooperative. The first red flag arrived 6 months into our engagement. Lauren and I had built a shared calendar because wedding planning had turned our lives into a second job. Tastings, venue calls, suit fittings, florist meetings, guest list arguments disguised as logistics. My work brain liked the order of it. Color-coded blocks made chaos look manageable. One Tuesday night, I noticed a recurring event labeled client prep. Every Tuesday, 7 to 9:30 p.m. Lauren did not have Tuesday clients. I knew that because I knew her schedule the way you know someone's breathing when you sleep beside them. Her design consultations were Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Tuesdays were supposed to be ours. I clicked the event once, then closed it. I told myself she had picked up freelance work. I told myself privacy was healthy. I told myself trust meant not auditing love. All three sounded mature. Only one was convenient enough. The second red flag was money. In January, 4 months before the wedding, I was paying bills while Lauren slept upstairs. I handled the finances because I was good at details and because Lauren treated due dates like weather. Inconvenient, external, not her fault. A recurring transfer cleared. $750 to Elaine Hayes, Lauren's mother. I had started sending it almost a year earlier after Lauren said Elaine needed help covering medical expenses after surgery. There was always a reason. A prescription gap, a specialist, a late bill. I loved Lauren, and helping her mother felt like building the family I thought I was joining. Then I added it up. 11 months, $8,250. I sat there with the calculator open, feeling something cold move through me. Then I checked the phone bill. One number appeared 16 times in December, for calls after midnight. One lasted 42 minutes. I ran a reverse lookup. Trevor Fallon. I stared at the name until the screen dimmed. Then I closed the laptop, went upstairs, and lay beside Lauren in the dark while she slept peacefully enough to make me feel insane. By morning, I had a list of explanations. I picked the least painful one. Here is the part people like to simplify. Betrayal does not usually arrive disguised as a stranger. It arrives wearing the face you already love. You see the signs. You notice the missing hours, the softened voice, the money leaving your account. Then you argue for the person hurting you. Because truth feels less survivable than hope at first. I need to stop here and tell you about Marcus. Because Marcus is the reason I survived the crash. Marcus Okafor had been my best friend since 7th grade, back when we were short, angry, and convinced middle school was a temporary clerical mistake. He became an ER nurse, which made sense if you knew him. Marcus did not panic. Marcus assessed. If a building caught fire, he would find the exits, count the people, and yell at the smoke for being inefficient. He was my best man. On Route 18, he became the only thing between me and bleeding out in a tuxedo. He tore his tie into a tourniquet. When that was not enough, he ripped the lining from his jacket and packed the wound with hands that shook only after the second ambulance arrived. He rode with me to the hospital. He sat beside my bed while doctors checked my spine, my skull, my leg. He did not mention Lauren at first. That matters. He could have said everything. He could have told me she had shown me who she was. He could have poured gasoline on the truth while I was still attached to monitors. Instead, he waited until my blood pressure stabilized, then leaned forward and said, "We need to talk about what happened on that road." I looked at the 4-line. "Start making calls," I said. Marcus made the first call before the bruising on my ribs had fully turned purple. Detective Nolan Price from the Middlesex County Crash Unit came to the hospital on day 2. He was 50, maybe 55, with tired eyes and a small notebook he used like a brake pedal. Slow everything down. Write it before believing it. He asked me to walk him through the morning. I told him about the route change. Our limo driver, Luis Romero, had objected before we left the hotel. Route 18 was under construction, he said. Narrow lanes, temporary barriers, bad visibility for a stretch limousine and a wedding convoy. I remembered him saying it because I had agreed with him. Then Lauren leaned forward from the back seat. Trevor left his heart medication at the florist, she said. We have to stop. Luis said there was a safer way around. Lauren told him we did not have time. Price stopped writing. Who made the final call? Lauren, I said. Luis did not want that route. Name of the florist? I did not know. But Luis did. Price came back 2 hours later with the name written down, Marigold and Maine. He did not say much after that. Detectives get quieter when a simple crash starts becoming something with a motive, and I watched him get quiet in real time. Lauren walked into my hospital room on the evening of day 3. Not day 1, not day 2, day 3. She came in wearing cream slacks, a soft sweater, and the careful exhaustion of someone who had rehearsed concern in the mirror. Her hair was pulled back. Her makeup was minimal but still required effort. She stopped at the foot of my bed and looked at the brace on my leg, the 4 in my arm, the bruise spreading along my jaw. You look better than I expected, she said. Marcus was in the corner chair. He did not move. He just looked at her with the kind of stillness nurses get when they are deciding whether a person is stupid, dangerous, or both. Trevor's still being monitored, Lauren said quickly. They had him on a drip. His heart rate was all over the place. I looked at the phone. Her last text was from 36 hours earlier. Please don't turn this into a whole thing. Rest. I should have yelled. I wanted to. Instead, I felt something in me go very calm, the way a job site goes quiet right before everyone realizes the crane is swinging wrong. Okay, I said. She blinked. Okay. Sit down. She sat because she thought calm meant forgiveness had entered the room. I asked about parking. I asked if she had slept. I asked if Trevor had family with him. Easy questions. Harmless questions. She answered too quickly, then slower, then relaxed by degrees. That was when I saw it. Not relief that I was alive. Relief that I was manageable. She kissed my forehead before leaving. Her lips were dry. The second she was gone, Marcus stood, closed the door, and said, Price called while you were asleep. I turned my head. He already went to the florist, Marcus said. No medication. No call. Trevor was never there. Detective Price came back on day 5. He brought 3 things: a printed dashcam timeline, screenshots from Luis Romero's phone, and a statement from Marigold in Maine that made the room feel smaller the longer I read it. The monitor beside me kept beeping steadily. Luis had sent Lauren a message at 8:47 a.m., 44 minutes before the crash. Route 18 is flagged. Active construction. Single lane. Not safe for limo convoy. Lauren's reply came 1 minute later. Trevor needs his medication before the ceremony. Take Route 18. Luis pushed back again. There is a safer detour. Adds 12 minutes. Lauren answered with 4 words. We do not have 12. I read that line twice from the hospital bed. My leg was elevated. My head still hurt when I turned it too fast. Marcus stood by the window with his arms crossed so tightly the muscles in his jaw moved. Price waited. He was careful. Police careful. The kind of careful that does not comfort you because it refuses to outrun the facts. Marigold and Maine confirmed no one called that morning, he said. No medication was left there. Trevor Fallon was not a customer on file. The owner says she has never held medication for any client, ever. I looked at the florist's statement. No call, no pills, no emergency. Just a lie with a route attached to it. She staged it, I said. Price's face did not change. "What I can say," he replied, "is that the stated reason for the route change was false, and Ms. Hayes overrode an explicit safety objection from a professional driver." Marcus looked at me then. Not pity, confirmation. Price closed his notebook. "There is another angle from the limo's forward camera we are still reviewing," he said. "I will be back within 48 hours. I called Nora Whitcomb from the hospital bed that evening. Nora had handled the paperwork when my mother died, then the sale of my childhood house, then the contract review on the townhouse Lauren and I were supposed to share after the wedding. She was a family and civil litigation attorney in Morristown, 26 years in practice, with a voice so level it made panic feel unprofessional. I told her everything in order. Route change, Trevor, florist, the texts, Lauren leaving in the first ambulance, 3 days of silence. When I finished, Nora did not say she was sorry. I appreciated that. "Send me the police documents when Detective Price releases copies," she said, "and send me 2 years of bank records. All of them. Everything connected to Lauren, the townhouse, the wedding, the renovation, and Elaine." So I sent them. Venue deposit, $18,000. Townhouse down payment, $92,000. Kitchen renovation, $31,000. Furniture deposits. Contractor invoices. Monthly transfers to Elaine Hayes, $750 at a time, totaling $16,500. Nora called back the next afternoon at 2:06. "Lauren's documented contribution to shared assets is 0, she said. I stared at the wall. 0. 0. Not low, not disputed. 0. The number landed harder than I expected, not because I needed her money, but because her family had spent a year calling me controlling whenever I asked for clarity. Nora continued. "I'm preparing a personal injury claim, a restitution demand, and, depending on occupancy, an eviction notice." "For Lauren?" "For Lauren," she said, "and anyone else living in your townhouse." I understood what that meant. I left the hospital on day 9. My leg was locked in a brace. I had a black aluminum cane the physical therapist adjusted twice. 7 stitches pulled every time I shifted wrong. My lower back carried a deep bruise that felt less like pain and more like a warning. The concussion made bright lights feel personal. Marcus packed my discharge papers because I kept losing the thread halfway through sentences. Dr. Samira Patel came in before they released me that morning. She was the trauma neurologist who had been tracking the concussion, and she had the kind of directness doctors use when they decide you are strong enough to hear the truth. "Do you have a stable place to recover?" she asked. I thought about the townhouse, Lauren's clothes in the closet, Trevor's number in her phone, the kitchen I had paid to renovate, the bed I was not sure I could sleep in without seeing Route 18 behind my eyelids. "I'm going to Marcus's apartment," I said. "Good," she replied, without pretending neutrality. Then she closed the folder against her hip. "Your body has been through significant trauma. The next few weeks matter. Stress will slow healing. So whatever situation is waiting for you, handle it completely or stay away from it completely. Halfway will cost you." I nodded because my throat had tightened. She paused at the door. "One more thing. Your fiancé called the nurse's station 3 times asking when you would be discharged." I looked up. "She asked about the date," Dr. Patel said carefully. "She did not ask about your neurological status, your leg, your pain level, or whether you were able to walk." The room went very still. Marcus zipped the bag shut. "That tells you enough," he said. "Elaine called it a reconciliation dinner. She had repurposed the venue deposit I paid, because apparently humiliation was cheaper when the room was already booked. 50 relatives, original centerpieces, white roses, engagement photos still printed large enough to make strangers believe we had once been happy. Lauren's family framed it as healing, closure, a chance to calm everyone down before lawyers ruined everything. I understood the translation. They wanted witnesses. Not for the truth, for forgiveness. They wanted me limping into a room full of people who had already chosen Lauren and performing maturity on command. They wanted the injured groom to be gracious, quiet, masculine in the convenient way, the kind that absorbs damage so nobody else has to feel uncomfortable. Marcus read the invitation over my shoulder. Nora saw it and said, "Good. Public rooms create public records." Lauren called on a Wednesday evening, 9 days after I left the hospital. I was at Marcus's kitchen table with Nora's folder open when her name lit my screen. She said the dinner would be private, healing, a way to keep this from getting uglier. "Where did Trevor sleep while I was in the hospital?" I asked. Silence. "Which nights specifically?" "Trevor, please," she said, and stopped. "Daniel. I meant Daniel." There it was. The practiced lie tripping over the name it usually protected. "I'll be there," I said. She exhaled like she had won already. Somehow, again. I arrived at 7:15 p.m. Black suit, dark red shirt, black cane in my right hand. Not a tuxedo. I had already bled in one of those, and I was not giving Lauren's family the poetry of seeing me dressed like a groom twice. Nora walked on my right with a leather portfolio under her arm. Marcus walked on my left with a laptop bag over his shoulder and the calm expression of a man who had checked every exit before stepping inside. The cane hit the floor once. The room noticed. 50 people turned toward me under string lights and white roses. Engagement photos of Lauren and me stared from both walls, enlarged. There we were laughing on the boardwalk in Cape May. There we were holding champagne. There I was, a man who had not yet learned how quickly a face can become evidence. Elaine intercepted me near the entrance. She wore navy silk and the kind of smile people use when they believe control is available. Her hand closed around my forearm, just above the bruise. "You need to behave tonight," she whispered. "No scenes. No accusations. The elders are here." I looked at her hand. Then I looked at her. For 9 days, everyone had spoken around me like I was a problem to manage. The injured groom, the embarrassed fiancé, the man who should be grateful he survived and polite enough not to ruin dinner. I leaned closer, so only she could hear me. "I came to salt the earth, Elaine." Her fingers opened. 3 emotions crossed her face in 1 second: confusion, fear, calculation. Then I walked past her toward the microphone. I took the microphone from the stand because leaving it there felt too polite. The room went quiet in that expectant, staged way people get when they think they are about to witness reconciliation. Lauren sat at the front table, pale but composed. Trevor was beside her with one hand resting over his chest like an old habit. Elaine stood near the wall, calculating distance to the exits. Since Elaine gathered everyone, I said, "I want to make this efficient." Someone laughed nervously. "This engagement is over." The room cracked open. Voices rose. A chair scraped. Lauren said my name once, sharp and wounded, as if the injury in the room belonged to her. I nodded to Marcus. He connected his laptop to the projector with the calm of a man starting in 4. The first slide appeared behind me. White text, black background, no decoration. Venue deposit, $18,000. "My payment," I said. The bank transfer appeared beneath it. Townhouse down payment, $92,000. "My payment." Kitchen renovation, $31,000. "My payment." Furniture deposits, contractor invoices, electrical upgrades, plumbing corrections. My name, my accounts, my signatures. Each document appeared for long enough that nobody could pretend they had not read it. Then Marcus clicked to the next slide. Transfers to Elaine Hayes, $16,500. Elaine made a sound behind me. I did not turn. That was for medical expenses, she said. That was what you called it, I said. The final slide came up. Lauren Hayes' documented contribution to shared assets, $0. Zero sat on the wall in a font large enough to embarrass the dead. For a year, her relatives had called me controlling. They said I watched money too closely. They said a real man would provide without keeping score. I looked at the room. I did provide, I said. That was the problem. You mistook my silence for permission to keep taking. Then I nodded to Marcus again. The money disappeared from the wall, and Route 18 appeared behind me. A dashcam schematic. The hotel. The construction zone. The temporary barrier. The point of impact marked in red. The room did not move the same way after that. Money had embarrassed them. The road frightened them. This is the route Luis Romero advised against, I said. Professional driver. 20 years. Clean record. Marcus clicked. Luis's message filled the wall. Route 18 is flagged. Active construction. Single lane. Not safe for limo convoy. Then Lauren's reply. Trevor needs his medication before the ceremony. Take Route 18. Lauren stood halfway. Daniel, stop. No. The word came out flat, and she sat back down like the chair had caught her. Marcus clicked again. The statement from Marigold and Maine appeared. No call received. No medication held. Trevor Fallon, not a customer on file. 50 people read it together. Trevor stood then, one hand pressed dramatically to his chest. I was scared, he said. I thought I was having an episode. I didn't know anyone would get hurt. I looked at him. You were scared enough to invent medication at a florist you had never used. His mouth opened. You were scared enough to let Lauren climb into the first ambulance with you while I was pinned in a limo. Lauren whispered, That's not fair. I turned to her. No. What wasn't fair was Marcus using his tie to keep me from bleeding out while you held his hand in an ambulance. The room went completely still. I looked back at Trevor. And while I was in the hospital, you slept in my townhouse. In the bed I bought. In the room I paid to renovate. That landed differently. Numbers could be debated. A bed could not. Trevor lowered his hand from his chest. For once, nobody ran to him. Not even Lauren. Not this time. Nora stepped forward before Lauren could speak again. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. She placed 3 documents on the nearest table, one at a time, like closing files at the end of a job. Notice to vacate, she said. The townhouse is titled solely in Daniel Hartman's name. Lauren Hayes and Trevor Fallon have 30 days to remove themselves and their property. Lauren's face went white. Second document. Civil restitution demand for documented shared expenses paid without contribution. Elaine whispered, This is unnecessary. Nora looked at her. It is itemized. Third document. Personal injury complaint against Lauren Hayes for negligence in overriding a professional driver's safety objection, resulting in bodily injury. The room had gone silent enough to hear my cane shift against the table. This was no longer family drama. It was paperwork. Lauren followed me into the parking lot. I heard her heels first, sharp against the asphalt, then my name. Daniel, wait. I stopped beside Marcus's car and turned because I wanted to see her clearly. Not as the woman from the engagement photos. Not as the bride I almost married. As the person who had looked at me bleeding and chosen. She came up short. I made mistakes, she said. I know that. But you don't understand Trevor. He's not well. He spirals. I couldn't just leave him. I leaned on the cane. My leg throbbed. each pulse clean and angry. He tested you, I said. What? Trevor created a crisis to see who you would run to, and you passed. Her mouth opened, then closed. You passed his test, Lauren. You left me pinned in a wrecked limousine, bleeding through my wedding shirt, and you ran to him. You've probably been running to him for years. That's not fair. No. Fair was Marcus tearing his tie apart while you climbed into an ambulance. She flinched. I loved you, she whispered. I loved who I thought showed up when it mattered. I looked at the venue doors behind her, then at the car. I didn't need a wedding, I said. I needed a woman who ran to me first when I was bleeding. Then I got in. Marcus got in beside me without asking if I was okay. Marcus drove for maybe 30 seconds before he pulled into the far end of the lot and stopped. What? I asked. He kept both hands on the wheel. That was how I knew. Price called while you were on stage. The venue lights blurred through the windshield. Behind us, people were still spilling out of the doors, looking around for the next piece of the disaster to watch. I did not turn around. What did he find? Marcus looked at me then, and for the first time that night, his calm had edges. The forward-facing limo camera caught Trevor's SUV before impact. It merged left twice near the barrier. Luis had to correct. My grip tightened around the cane across my lap. Twice. Twice. The word sat between us. That supports reckless endangerment, Marcus said. Maybe more, depending on intent. I stared at the dark windshield and saw Route 18 again. The barrier, the white shirt turning red, Lauren's dress moving away from me. There's audio too, Marcus said. I looked at him. Trevor's SUV had Bluetooth running. Price says it recorded a call 15 minutes before the crash. To Lauren? Marcus shook his head. The silence before he answered felt longer than the accident. Not Lauren. To Elaine, he said. The reckless endangerment inquiry opened 6 weeks later. Detective Price submitted the evidence package to the Middlesex County prosecutor. Dashcam footage from both angles, Bluetooth audio from Trevor's SUV, text messages between Lauren and Luis, the Marigold and Maine statement, and the timestamped call to Elaine Hayes at 9:16 a.m., 15 minutes before impact. I did not get to hear the audio. Nora told me that was normal. Investigations are not built for emotional closure. They are built for admissibility. What became public was enough. Trevor Fallon was charged with reckless endangerment and filing a false statement connected to the medication claim. His attorney tried to frame it as panic, confusion, a fragile man making poor choices under stress. The prosecutor used the word deliberate. For months later, Trevor accepted a plea agreement, suspended sentence, 2 years of probation, mandatory psychological evaluation, and a written admission that no medication had been left at Marigold in Maine. Elaine was not charged immediately. That bothered me more than expected. But she was named as a person of interest, and the 916 call entered the investigative file as Exhibit F. Price would not tell me what she said on it. He only said, "It changed how we understood the morning." That was enough. For a woman who had built a dinner around controlling the story, being trapped inside the record was its sentence. The civil case against Lauren settled in February. Nora and I agreed not to discuss the amount publicly. I can say it covered the ambulance bills, hospital stay, physical therapy, neurological follow-ups with Dr. Patel, lost work, and something Nora called the full documented scope of negligence. Lauren and Trevor left my townhouse within the 30-day notice period. They did not leave it clean. I came back in the spring with Marcus, a rented carpet cleaner, and a gallon of paint called Harbor Fog, because healing still requires Home Depot. I painted the bedroom first. Not dramatically, not while crying into a roller tray. I just covered the wall where our engagement photo had hung and watched the old nail holes disappear under primer. Marcus ordered Thai food. We ate from cartons on the kitchen floor because the table had been hers. "You okay?" he asked. I looked around the room. "Yes," I said. And I meant it. I still use the black aluminum cane sometimes. Not every day, only when the weather turns sharp or my leg decides memory belongs in bone. I used to hate the sound it made on floors. Now I do not. It is honest. It says something happened, and I kept walking all the same. Since that spring, before I commit to anything, a plan, a person, or a route, I ask one question. If this goes wrong, who runs to me first? I learned the answer on Route 18, with Marcus's hands pressed to my leg and his voice keeping me alive. I was looking for love. I found proof.